Welcome to Woman Unveiled. This is the podcast where we're able to pull back the mask, all of the layers we wear as women that allow us to be able to present in front of others, but then not necessarily be true to our authentic selves. This is the space where we get to just pull everything back, just dive in and focus on issues relevant to us as women. I am your host, Shannon Battle, and today I just wanted to start in the month of January to talk about some of the challenges throughout the years, especially me as a woman getting close to the age of 50, knocking on the door, hitting that mark, and wanting to encourage us as women about this next transition and stage in our lives. I look and I talk to a lot of people, and the young women are always asking, about the formula, about what to do to hit this level of success. Oh, Miss Battle, I want to be like you, but they don't recognize that there's a process of patience, there's a process of growth, there's a process of what we call just lifing that you have to grow through if you want to sustain a quality life. So for this year, the complete focus is going to be on your family, your faith, and your finances. I believe if we get stronger in those areas, then there's nothing that we can't do. So, a lot of people want to grow a business, start a business, but you are terrible with your finances. A lot of people, they want God to bless them, rain the blessings down. God, your umbrella of favor, just let it fall on me. But yet, you not even aligned to be able to receive what the word offers because you over here doing other stuff that don't align with the word. You want to live another life, but you want God to bless you with the life that He desires that you have. You got too many conflicts going on in your life. And then when we talk about family, everybody want their family to look like Instagram families. If you look at all the photos now on Instagram, the family photos, everything is always perfect. These are the perfect families. So even had me one time over here like, okay, we have to look a certain way when we go take these pictures. Even though I like nice pictures, I like my family to represent. I like us, to come top notch when we doing it. But it's just so much pressure. Pressure for what? Pressure that takes away the authentic nature of who you are and who God created your family to be. So I want us to one, stop comparing ourselves to what media and the world is saying that we should show up as. Like, I haven't, I'm gonna just be forthcoming. I didn't want to do podcasts because every time I look on a lot of podcasts, you have to be all made up. You have to, look good for the gram and all this other stuff. And I believe I'm naturally beautiful as a black woman, but I just did not want to do all of that. I was like, there's sometimes I'm just getting up. I got to go to work. I'm not a makeup person. I mean, I'll do that if I have to get on stage or something. But generally on my day to day, okay, if I'm talking to you and you're coming to my office for counseling, this is what you get. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to just show up as myself. So I'm going to make sure that I model the types of characteristics that I think a lot of us as women want to model. We don't want to get dressed up all the time to go to work. It's a great day when I can just wear a sweatsuit. But then I also know that because of my profession, because of the expectations, that I have to dress a certain way. And it even started getting to the point where, even things that you wear, that you drive, people always, oh, they want to assume that, you're this progressive woman because you carry a certain bag, you wear certain types of jewelry, you drive a certain type of car. And yes, those are well earned privileges when you have worked hard, but that should not be the sum total of who you are. So as we are coming through this stage and we're starting to look at life on the other side, what do we want it to say? What do we want our past to speak to our future about? I often would say when I'm talking to people and they're asking, what are you doing next? What's on the agenda? What's your plan now? Because it always looks like I'm doing something, right? But so a lot of times I don't have the plan. So if you're looking at, okay, well, you go through these laws that you're taught, and everyone is teaching in all the podcasts. If you want certain things to happen, you got to manifest, you got to speak, you got to write the vision, because the Bible says that, write the vision, make it plain. And when I look at the goals that I've accomplished throughout the years, I've accomplished everything that my heart had desired. There's this book I don't have it right here with me, but I showed it to some students that I spoke to a couple of months ago. It's a book that I had written before I started attending a church I used to be a member of. And I heard the preacher speaking. And he was like, you need to write down your goals. And so I just wrote down these big goals. I wanted, to I wanted to grow in prophetic ministry because God has always spoken to me, shown me stuff, and I just be sitting there watching certain things. And I keep my mouth shut, but I know God be speaking to me about certain things. I don't be want to tell people, but I've gotten over that. I've grown through that. But that was one of the goals. Another one was to open up a youth center. And I never opened up a youth center, but I'm gonna get back to that one. Another one was to be financially stable and be able to enjoy a quality life where I had access to my kids at all time. And I didn't know what that looked like then. So let's go through some of those goals. That I had about a youth center, I never had a youth center, but I always knew I wanted to help youth. Why did I want to help youth? Well, I had a troubled past growing up. I grew up and I had some hardships. Life started happening, and my family, my mom and dad, they went through some things, and I discovered that, I wasn't as valued to my father as, I thought I was. And he, left our family. So then we had to deal with the separated family. Then we had to also deal with substance addiction. So we had, the focus of, my parents being addicts. And then everybody forgot about the young girl having to go through the disease of family addiction, and nobody knew how to help. We didn't have all the services that we have right now in mental health. So you didn't talk about, the fact that, your parents had those type of struggles. You just did whatever you could to cope through it. And that's what I did. So I wanted to make life easier, and I wanted to be life have life more supportive of young people. So that was a goal, because I said if I had a center they all could come to, then it would be, something I could do to make an impact in my community, because I didn't have that growing up. Not to say that they weren't there, but it just wasn't accessible to me at the time, because my great grandmother was raising me and we were poor. I didn't know we were poor. I didn't know we were poor because we was living off of her social security check, and I didn't have a lot of I wasn't able to just do things that everybody else could do. But God blessed me to where I didn't go without. And I looked nice growing up, but I made some, bad decisions because of the life that was given to me. And so I was like, yeah, I want a youth center. So what that actually led to when I wrote those goals down, I think it was like in 1998. I wrote those goals down. In 2000, God gave me a dream. He gave me a dream about this house. It was a blue house with a red for sale sign, and he gave me directions in the dream. And my husband and I, at the time, we were looking for a house because he was getting out the military. And as we were looking for a house, and then I had the dream, I told him, I was like, God gave me this dream. And this was when I was young in faith. Back then, if you were saved in the 90s, you was like on fire. It was just like, okay, whatever God want me to do, I'm gonna do it. And I remember sharing that dream with him. And so he said, okay, let's go. Because he young in the faith too. And he just following what his wife said. Thank God he did, when it came to that. But we were young in the faith, and we followed the directions that were in my dream. And as we were coming around the curve, there was this red for sale sign on the right hand side of the road. And I was like, oh. And then there was this blue house. When I tell you blue, okay, I got my kids' paintings behind me. Okay, this is their artwork over here. And so if you like to buy it, I put a sale price on it. But nah, this is all made in love. So that's what's behind me. But it was blue like that. When I tell you blue, blue, the whole house was blue. And I was like, oh. I said, God, you want us to move in this? And so we walked around and looked. And, of course, I'm feeling some things because I'm like, okay, now I had a dream and this looked like that dream. And then I went back home and I laid down and I prayed. I said, okay, God, you gave me that dream. What am I going to do with this? And instantly, when I laid down, he said, group home. And I was like, a group home? I don't even know what a group home is. I remember one time working 2 days at a facility for children that were developmentally disabled. And one of the little girls smeared feces all over the wall. I quit. I said, I can't do it. I was 17 years old. I said, I'm never doing that again. So when he said group home, I'm like, I'm not doing that. And then, as he dealt with me, and I was like, okay, you put that on me, you put that in me, so let's inquire a little bit more. So what did I start doing? I started inquiring more of God, because I didn't know anything about what to do. So I was like, okay, what you want me to do? And I was just humble enough to try to receive what instructions he was giving me. And mind you, I'm like 22 years old at this time. I'm a young mom, 2 kids, just got married. And I'm like, okay, what is this? So I started inquiring. I started finding people who did group homes. Somebody did training. So he was like, come to my training. And he wanted me to do like an Amway type training. I wasn't interested in that. He trying to sell that service, but that was to get me there to meet this lady that was going to be instrumental in mentoring me throughout my journey. So I inquired. I kept asking, and my ask began to open doors for me, doors that brought me the connections that I needed to be able to grow into this vision that God had given me, because I didn't know what to do. I was a baby in this whole thing, and I didn't know what direction to go, but I was willing. And so as we're going through, this training, he introduces me to this lady, and it's at her group home facility. And so I'll go to her. I'm all excited. Yes, I want to open up a group home. And she gives me this look like, you and everybody else. And so she gave me pushback. But I understand, when you are really trying to grow in an area, it doesn't always come in the package that you want it to be. And it's not always comfortable. But because I was so hungry for what God wanted me to do, I said, you know what? Nothing's going to stop me, not even her attitude. And so I kept pursuing her, because I knew she would be the one to help me. And she didn't know that she was going to be the one to help me, but I knew it at that time. And so I just kept going to her. I was like, okay, what's my first step? And when she gave me the first step, I maxed out as much as I could do. And then I came back to her, and I remember coming back to her, and I said, okay, and I'm jumping so far ahead because there's so much to the story. I said, here's my policy and procedure manual. My policy and procedure manual is about 40 pages. She said, that's your what? And then she said, no, this is your policy and procedure manual. She came back with this big old manual. I mean, the manual was huge. And the manual was so huge, excuse me, the manual was so huge that when she sorry, I got a phone call coming in, and that always happens when I'm trying to be great, right? Hold on. I'm over here live, and then some of the video stopped on there, but because I got two different cameras coming in. But the manual was so huge, and I'm like, oh, I felt that small. I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? I'm getting this in over my head. So she was like, take this, go back and look at your policies and bring me back your policy manual. So I was working through that. So as that was happening, we then had to go and look at buying the house. So when I went to go buy the house, I said, okay, God, I don't know nothing about buying a house, but we got to move into a house because he's getting ready to get out the military. And I just don't know I don't know how to do this. First time buying a house, husband still in the military, got little kids. And I had just gotten a job on post. So I had graduated, I was working on my master's, got a job on post, and I was working civil service in the education department. Well, I got hired on a temporary position that I had applied for. And let me tell you how I got that. And so I'm going on rabbit trails just to get to where I am about this goal for opening up a youth center. I contacted I needed a job, but I was very specific. I learned early on growing up in the faith that you need to be very specific in your prayers. So when people are asking me things, and they're saying, "Oh, I want to do this." I'm like, "Okay, what's your why? Why do you want to do that?" Because the goal of that is, not to try to get up under your skin or make you feel, be condescending or anything like that, but it's really to get you to understand the value of what, you want to do, what you're saying you want to do, because the worth is going to be in you, and you're going to have to bring that out in order for it to actually come to life. So when I did my goals, I was very specific. Back then, this was like in 2000. I wanted a job working 8 to 5, wanted my own office, and I needed to make at least $36,000 a year. And so I applied for all of these jobs. They didn't We had AOL dial up back then, so it wasn't send an email, send out your application. You had to write all your applications out and mail them out. And so my daughter at the time was like three, maybe 3-ish years old. And I said, Shemaya, I need you to pray over these applications with your mom, because I knew about power of agreement, but then I knew her innocence was just, she was going to hit some prayers with God. You know what I'm saying? So I'm young in this faith, right? And she prayed over the application. She said, Lord, bless my mommy with a good job in Jesus' name. Amen. So we sent those off. I get selected for the interview for a guidance counselor position. I go in, kill the interview. It's a temporary position for 6 months. And when they're doing my processing paperwork, they say, well, there's something that's wrong here, because your social security number was connected to someone else's security number. Social security number was connected to your name. And the person that should have been interviewed for the position, it was a mix up. But because you're already selected for this position, we'll go ahead and process your paperwork. So human error, God, God did something with some numbers, allowed me to get this position. So when I got that position, guess what? I worked, my hours were 8:30 to 5. I started earning a little over $34,000, and I worked Monday through Friday, and I had my own office space, cubicle, but it was my own space. So I'm in that job. And while I'm in this job, then God gives me the dream about opening up a group home. And so as I'm, looking at it and inquiring more about it, so I open up the phone book and I say, okay, God, I'm gonna point to the first place you want me to do to get this job, to buy this house. So I pointed it in the phone book, and it was All American something broker or something. And then so I was like, all right. So I called, and it was a young real estate girl. She was like, her name was Kat. She was like, yeah, I can help you. We go look at the house. The house was listed as a 3-bedroom, but was actually a 4-bedroom. And then she told me the cost for the house. And I was like, all right, let's do the paperwork. She's like, okay, we got to pull your credit. I said, oh, Lord Jesus. I knew it wasn't going to be good, because I had a debt that I owed when I went to law school. So I graduated college when I was 20, and I applied for law school, and I got in, and I didn't complete the whole process. And I owed on a student loan that I hadn't been paying, and it was $2,260. So I was like, oh gosh, I'm not gonna get this house because I owe that bill and I don't have no money to pay it. So she said, well, you owe this debt for your school. She said, you need to pay it. You can just write me a check and you'll be able to qualify for the house. I said, I don't have that kind of money, Kat. I'm not going to be able to pay that. She said, why? She said, it's only $22.60. God did something else with some numbers. He put the decimal point in a different position so I could qualify for that house. So when my credit report was ran, I owed $22.66 rather than the $2,260. So I said, oh yeah, I'm gonna write that check. Wrote that check real fast. And so we began the process of going through to get me qualified for the house. Well, fast forward, they decide we want to close earlier than what we had presumed. They want to close in September of 2020. I said, I don't have all the money because I didn't. And I only had like maybe a few $100s. And then so Kat calls, she's like, well, we want to close today. I said, well, Kat, I don't have the money. And then she said, well, I guess you won't be able to get the house. I said, well, I guess I can't. So I went back to God. I said, God, I did all I could do. I don't have the money for the house. And next thing I know, I get a phone call, not even 30 minutes later. And his name, I ain't gonna say his name because he always says that I always put him on blast, because I thank this man because he was very instrumental in where I am today. And he called me. His name was Jay Dowdy. I'm gonna just say the name. He's realtor at that time. And he was like, Miss Battle, he was like, what is it that you want to buy this house for? And I told him, I said, I have this vision God gave me. And he was a believer. And then so I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do this group home. And I explained it. And he was like, how about this? He said, since I'm the broker and owner of this agency, he said, I'm going to pay your closing costs for you. And you just pay me as you're able to, but you just do right by these kids. I said, say no more. I didn't even ask, are you sure? Because I already know if you trying to bless me with something, I'm not going to put my mouth to make you change your mind. So I was like, okay. I said, what I need to do. He was like, just come to the office and sign. So I go to the office and they was like, well, we got to get your husband assigned because, when you're married in North Carolina, both of y'all have to go on the deed. So they called my husband in the field. He comes out of the field and he was like, what are we doing? I said, we opening up a group home. And he's like, huh? I said, we opening up a group home. He was like, okay. But he was following my faith. He knew that he trusted my faith. He trusted my relationship with God. And because I didn't know what I was doing. And so easily he could have been like, no, we're not doing that, Shannon. It's too much risk. We about to get out. I'm getting out the military. We don't. He could have listed everything that was against us, but he walked in agreement with me and trusted me. So we signed, we bought this house, and we have this blue house, right? To open up a group home that we have no license to operate. So as we're doing those things, there's more to the story for that. I just say that to say my youth center was a youth facility to help young people who were struggling with personal issues, behavioral issues, mental health concerns. It didn't start the way I wrote it out, but it aligned with where God was fueling passion within me. So I could go on and on and on, and we're going to talk about that the next time because I really want you to start and I really want you to go back and listen to this podcast, and I want you to extract some of the things that you feel like God is doing within your heart, what he's doing within your vision, what is he doing within your calling, because people are trying to tell you that if you do X, Y, and Z, you're going to increase your following, you're going to make this amount of money, you should be clearing $100,000 a month and all this other stuff. And I'm not saying that's not true for them, but what I'm saying is get focused on the path that God has for you, because the blessings of the Lord make rich and add no sorrow. You don't have to go back. People won't be able to say that they did anything for you because it's going to be God who does it. There will be people who are instrumental in that process, but even those people are going to be able to have to submit and humble themselves to know that it wasn't them. It was God using them to be able to help elevate you to wherever that direction was that he was going for you. So as we're praying for the rest of this year and we're believing as business owners, as women in leadership, as progressive women, we're believing that we will have more, we will have more focus on our faith. We will focus more intentionally on our finances, and we will focus more on our families, because that is the core of who we are. And I know there are a lot of women out here who are hustling, who are, trying to make things where, I don't like to use the word hustle, but we do, we do got a certain hustle to us. We're over here trying to meet the demands of life. And what I see happening is that we're our families are becoming separated. They're becoming divided because we're not as attentive to the stuff we should be paying attention to, because everything else is demanding our attention. So this year we're going to figure out how to get you more focused on what matters, because when you take care of home and you do it in a way that's honorable to God, and you let him be the nucleus of that structure, then you're going to be able to do all of what your heart desires, because he's going to put the things within you that will give you peace. It's going to make you prosperous, and you're not going to have to put on these airs and masks to try to make your way and do it in and out of your strength to make things happen. No, it's just going to be God operating through you. And I'm going to show you how to be a magnet, how to allow those things to be naturally attracted to you, because that is what God has positioned you to be in this earth. A magnet of his goodness, a magnet of his grace. And all of those things are going to happen in and for you if you just allow yourself to submit to the word. That's all you got to do. And we're going to do this in business, and we're going to do it in business the right way this year. And life is going to change for you. Things are going to change, and there's not going to drag out the way that it has been. Your struggle, your pain, and all that you've been experiencing it throughout the years, that's just really going to be behind you, because now going forward, something is going to leap inside of you. And I believe that. And I believe that as we come together in this, that you are going to be able to see things that you've only dreamed about, things that you have imagined but maybe have laid to the side because you just had so much things going on and you don't see how it was going to happen for you. But I believe that they're going to happen for you sooner than later, because we're coming into agreement. I'll be that young girl that my daughter was for me. God bless my mommy with a good job. So what I'm saying for you who are listening, God bless my sister with the desires of her heart. God, give her exponential increase in those areas that she's desiring to have. Give her wisdom to be able to balance her checkbook the right way so that you can add to her daily without her having to even go out and do all this extra work that tires, stresses her out, and make her sweat more when she start going through the menopause, and then just be sweating because she's stressed. But I've enjoyed talking with you all. Again, this is Woman Unveiled podcast. And if there's anything that I could help you with, just go to my website, send me an email, and we're going to do this thing together. You are not alone. Thank you for tuning in.